but not could. That's,
Mr. Chairman, can we just do a little housekeeping and note that the Google map is Exhibit 2A and the report, the acoustical report is Exhibit 2B, and we should also note that there was an emailed letter received which was distributed to you all dated June 2nd, 2016 with attachments from Lori Hoffer, and that would be Exhibit 2C.
all right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Timothy Lee. I'm an attorney in New Haven. I represent a number of the neighbors on Shady Lane with respect to this application. Before I get started tonight, is it the inclination of the Commission to continue the public hearing? It seems to me that Mr. Cote made a nice theoretical presentation, but it was a little bit short on details, and it would be nice to actually have a plan in front of us that we can comment on before we discuss the application in full. If you want me to make comments, I'm happy to make comments, but it seems to me that if the Commission is going to continue the public hearing to allow them to submit additional information, we would like to reserve the right to come back and comment on the actual plan before the Commission.
Well, as much as I would like to answer you directly, I'm going to punt, and we're going to let you make your comments so that Attorney Lynch and the JCC can hear your comments, and then we're probably going to hear from the neighbors.
Okay.
And then we'll make a decision.
Okay. Going in order of the presentation, Attorney Lynch referenced the fact that there's a noise ordinance in town. And we don't dispute there's a noise ordinance in town. And the noise ordinance in town deals with amplified sound. And I have two responses with regard to that. There is amplified sound coming from the pool area and from the art center. There are speakers there. The people, the neighbors in Shady Lane can hear those speakers. Secondly, whether or not the noise is exempt under the noise ordinance or not, this is the Planning and Zoning Commission, and these people are here, the JCC is here tonight for a special permit. And when the Commission is considering the special permit, you have to consider the health, safety, and welfare of the neighbors and the impact of the use on the neighbors. So your jurisdiction exceeds beyond the noise ordinance. For example, if I go and scream in front of your house every night, I'm not violating the noise ordinance, but I could be creating a nuisance. The same thing with the JCC. They might not be violating the noise ordinance because it's human voices. However, they can still be creating a nuisance upon the neighbors in Shady Lane. So that's the first point. The second point is Attorney Lynch referenced that they are here on an amendment to a special permit in 1994. And when we were here 2 months ago, we talked a little bit about the fact that under the 1994 permit, there was a site plan prepared by Brackus Landino. And that site plan called for berms, trees, bushes, shrubbery. Neighbors testified that stuff, those berms, were never put onto the property. I believe the chairman referenced he walked the property and he did not see the berms. Well, if this is an amendment to the 1994 special permit, we want the Commission to hold the JCC to the terms of the 1994 special permit. Make them put in the berms that they promised you they would put in 1994. Make them put in the trees and the shrubbery that they promised that they would put in 1994. Whether or not there was a violation or not is not the issue. The fact of the matter is they didn't build out the plans that they promised to the Commission and that they promised to the neighbors that they would build out in 1994. Third point, Mr. Cote made a nice theoretical presentation, but the presentation was very short on details. We didn't exactly know where the picnic tables were going to go. We didn't know how high the fence was going to be. We didn't know what project we were going to use on the fence. We didn't know if the fence was going to be a fence or a berm. We didn't know where the fence was, where the berm was going to extend to and what distance. The fact of the matter is, this is the Planning and Zoning Commission. You should be evaluating plans that come before you. You shouldn't be designing plans on the fly. If I represented a developer and I came here in front of you and said, hey, I want to build a 100-unit apartment complex, but you know what? When I get on the field, I'll tell you where I want to put the house. I'll tell you where I want to put the units. I'll tell you where I want to put the parking. You would say, Tim, get out of here. That's not what we do. You have to come before us with a plan. And I think you should hold the JCC to that same standard. Make them come to you with a plan that you can either approve or not approve. But to come before you with a theoretical presentation and say, we could do this, we could do that, that's nothing that's really nothing for you to act upon with regard to this application.
I think we did request that.
Right, well, then brings my fourth point. The neighbors have retained an acoustical engineer to evaluate the proposal. And we did receive a copy of the proposal last week, and we'd retain an acoustic engineer, and we'd like him to be able to come before the commission and make a presentation. But once again, before he can evaluate a proposal, there has to be a proposal. We need the JCC to come before you and say, this is what we're going to do. Here's a site plan. Here's an engineered site plan. Here's where the berm goes. Here's where the fence goes. The fence is going to be 12 feet here. It's going to be 10 feet here. The picnic tables are going to be over here. The berm's going to be there. Once we have that site plan, then we can send it to our acoustic engineer. Our acoustic engineer can evaluate it and say, this plan works, this plan doesn't work, part of the plan works, part of the plan doesn't work. But we're not in a position to do that. And my fear is that the commission has bent over backwards with the JCC on this application, and I understand. But now we're 4 months into the application. It started in March, and now we're into June. The time clock for the commission to rule upon this application, or to complete the public hearing, is rapidly expiring. We're not going to have enough time. If they submit a revised plan, quite frankly, you're not going to be able to act upon that plan complete the public hearing within the 100 days and have our acoustic engineer evaluate the plan. Seems to me that we're already in June. It looks like, if I had to guess, they're not going to be able to open the pool club for this summer. If that's the case, why are we rushing through this application? I think what they should do is they should withdraw the application, or the commission should deny the application. They can then get all their ducks in line. They can get an engineered plan. They can show us where the fence is going to go. They can show us what product they're going to use on the fence. They could show us how high the berms are. They can show us where the picnic table is. All the things the Planning and Zoning Commission requires for almost every single application that comes before you. We have time now. They're not going to make this summer anyway, so let's do it the right way. Let's stop rushing this application through. Let them submit a plan that works. Let them go before the commission. Let the neighbors have an actual opportunity to evaluate the plan, and then we can come back in the fall and we can take a look at it. And either the plan works or the plan doesn't work, but at least then we have a plan we can all look at instead of trying to design it on the fly. With that being said, if it is the fifth point I would make is, it is hard to believe that we are here in June, 4 months after the project started, and their acoustical engineer did not know he was supposed to evaluate the impact of the noise from the pool. I understand the JCC says they want to be good neighbors and they want to be considerate to the neighbors on Shady Lane, but the fact of the matter is, how does their own acoustical expert not know that the issue before the Planning and Zoning Commission is the expansion of the pool hours on Saturdays and Sundays? He seemed like a nice fellow, but for him not to know that, when that is the major issue before the commission for 4 months, when that's the major issue for the neighbors who have been here every night of those 4 months, it's hard to believe.
It sounded like from what he said that it was the direction that he got from the JCC.
And that's my point exactly. The JCC says we want to be good neighbors, but if they want to be good neighbors, how are they not giving direction to their own acoustic engineer? Focus on the pool. How can we diminish the noise on the pool? How can we lessen that impact? The fact that they didn't tell the acoustic engineer, I think, is really telling of the true motivations. Finally, to the extent the commission is inclined to extend the public hearing, which we hope they don't, we would like the opportunity to have the plans delivered to us in a timely manner so that we can have our acoustical engineer evaluate the plans and provide comment to the commission.
And what would you consider a reasonable amount of time for your...
I would consider at least 2 weeks a reasonable amount of time. Well, in light of the fact that the JCC's now had about 90 days to come up to present this application in front of the commission, I don't think 2 weeks is an unreasonable amount of time to ask somebody to evaluate a set of plans. That being said, I have nothing further. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Any questions?
The question, Chris, what's the maximum amount of time we have for, even with
We have 35 days. They can grant you 65 days. That gets you to 100.
okay.
So you started this hearing on March 21st. So when we look at those dates, I believe it gets you to like June 28th.
July 28th and
June.
June 28th, and there cannot be any extensions beyond that. I'm just asking, I don't know.
The extensions that are granted by statute are 65 days. I'm not going to go into what law cases there may be about hearings continuing beyond 65 days.
So we cannot
Or 100
extend
days.
public hearing beyond June 28th.
You can't extend it any further without consent from the
Oh, no,
applicant.
even with their consent, we can't go
Under
beyond.
statute, there's a total of 100
Okay,
days.
that's all. I just want to make sure. 1828.
Well, this is 27 days. You want that?
Oh, no.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Lee?
Nothing
Any
else.
more questions from Mr. Lee? Thank you. So we'll take comments from the neighbors. First people we always start with are the people that are in favor of the application.
That's me. My name is Jay Charco, and I live at 10 Shady Lane, and for the record, I'm not in favor of the application. This whole process reminds me of a biblical story, and the biblical story is about King Solomon. And this commission appears to me to be trying to split the baby. The baby cannot be split. On one side, you have the JCC with 20 years of history, and today was another example of what they can do or not do, totally unprepared for what the issue was. On the other side, you have the neighbors. The neighbors want a quiet community. They want property values to be maintained. That's what this commission is supposed to do. It seems like a simple answer. Do what you're supposed to do. This extension, this variance, is going to do no good. They do not need this pool. There's plenty of pools in the town of Woodbridge. It's just going to disrupt the neighborhood even further. And as Tim said, there's things that they should have done, and they should do them. Do all of the corrections, and then have another meeting. If the noise level is what they say it's going to be, then consider the application, not before. Everything should be done, see what the noise level is, and if it's tolerable, then think about this new application. Thank you.
I'm just going to remind everybody that's talking that it'd be better if people didn't repeat things that have already been said.
Seems like every time I get up to say anything, I kind of get muzzled. However, my name's Larry Wartell, and I'm not in favor of the application. Those who fail to study history are doomed to repeat it. The JCC initially was a guest of the town of Woodbridge in a residential area on promises to confine their activities to the main building in the center of their property. In 1994, with the support of the neighbors, based on the promises and stipulations in the agreement, which I read, and I'm sure all of you have read, they were granted a special permit based on limited hours, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, for the use of the pool, only for the camp, everything was supposed to be limited to camp use. We have to remember that was the agreement. All this talk of noise abatement is about new noise. That's what our problem is. We don't want new noise. We don't want 70% of a dose of strychnine instead of 100%. We want no new noise. We don't want any strychnine. And if we don't remember that we're talking about noise abatement, not noise elimination, we're going to go down the path that led to 22 years' worth of letters that are in the packet about noncompliance by the JCC. The fact that the town didn't act on it doesn't mean that it wasn't a problem for all of us. You, the chairman, said it's all about the noise, and yet they came here totally unprepared to really deal with the noise. So they're getting a fifth bite of the apple. Adam only got one, I think. And this is really out of hand. Terry, at your first meeting, said there's no barrier that you can build that will keep out the noise of children playing. You can go look in your own transcripts, right? This is the town building inspector. If you read the original packet, the JCC sound engineer said nobody would hear any noise past the property lines, that all the noise would be equivalent to the chirping of birds. It's right there in the packet. That's how much they know, because we hear the noise. And the further away you are from it, the more noise you hear. And there's no wall that they're going to be able to build to keep this out. When you look up the state and the federal guidelines about noise abatements for highways, they say the best they can do is make trucks sound like cars. They can't eliminate the sound. We're talking about new noise here. We don't want it. Sure, they should be abating the noise that's already there. They never did it in the first place. And how we can give them another special permit when they didn't fulfill the first one is beyond me. In 1998, they came back to the TP&Z 3 years after they got the permit and asked to expand the hours to nights and weekends. One of the administrators who's sitting behind me testified at that hearing that they hadn't read the 1995 agreement. 3 years later, this is what we've been dealing with. There's no institutional memory. There's no reason to believe that they'll follow through on whatever plan they come up with. And I think Jay is right. If you see it in your hearts that you have to vote against us, make them do it first. Make them demonstrate that it works, because they never will. And it isn't going to work. So please, this is a clear-cut issue. Either you support the special interest of the JCC, or you help the homeowners protect their peace and quiet and their property values. The message to the rest of the town is going to be loud and clear. Either their properties are going to be protected or they're not. This proposal will bring no venue that isn't already available in the town of Woodbridge. It will not bring a single tax dollar to the town of Woodbridge, and it will not relieve the town debt $1. And I think we need to keep that in mind. Thank you for your attention.
My name is Andrew Danzig. I live at 3 Millhaven Road. And
reason I'm here is that I've read about this application, JCC's application, on the front page of the local newspapers to extend the hours of the operation of its pool. And I can empathize with the concerns raised by some of the neighbors of the pool. So I appreciate the opportunity to present my perspective to this issue. I just want to add some perspective. To set the record straight, I am not a member of the JCC. I don't use the JCC pool or any other pool in town. I live across the street from the Woodbridge Club located at 10 Millhaven Road. The club has tennis courts, a pool, and a clubhouse. The club is open every day from Memorial Day through Labor Day, and throughout most of the summer is open from until 8 p.m. 6 days a week and 9 p.m. on Fridays. In addition to the noise of hundreds of people when the club hosts swim meets several times during the season, there's the constant blast of speakers and horns. In addition, the clubhouse hosts parties all year long, usually on Saturday night. It's open until midnight. The music is so loud, we can hear it in our living room. We tend to spend our time at home during the summer outside or on our porch, so we can hear the noise of the pool and clubhouse very clearly. I want to make this clear. We have no complaints about the club. The club is part of the neighborhood. While we don't like the extra traffic that the club brings in, often parking on the street, adding litter to the street in front of our house, we do appreciate that people, particularly young people, are exercising outdoors. And to set the record straight, the club has never offered us free membership or any other compensation for being their neighbor. Expanding the hours of the JCC pool or any other public pool in town should be approved. It has the benefit of giving our residents more opportunity to be together outdoors and getting much needed exercise. Our ears are constantly bombarded by noise, much more annoying than that of kids splashing in a pool. I don't think we need an acoustic engineer to verify the noise of leaf blowers and lawnmowers and passing trucks and motorcycles, all hours of day and night, not just until 4 o'clock. I can even hear the train whistles from the Naugatuck line coming through, constantly bombarded by noise. So let's put this issue in perspective. The reason I'm here is that I see the front page of the paper, what is the most pressing issue going on in Woodbridge? People ask, what's it like to live in Woodbridge? I say, oh, people are up in arms about kids swimming outside. I mean, I'm just amazed to see that there's how many man hours are invested in engineers and lawyers and acoustics, and we're talking about kids playing in a pool and being outdoors and playing. It's part of life, and you're not going to be able to mitigate all the noises that annoy us. And I think, as someone said, you know, what kind of message are we going to send as a town that if this kind of noise bothered us, then yeah, I'd like my neighbor not to mow the lawn when I'm outside on a Saturday afternoon, you know, and I'd like the leaf blowers to stop in the fall and all that. But I understand that's part of life in a community, and I think what's important is to instill a greater sense of community. And the only modification to the application I would recommend is that the pool be open until dusk and not limited to a certain hour. Like the pool across the street is open till pretty much till dusk. Thank you very much. Unless you have any questions. Oh, sorry.
Would be Exhibit 2D, and I need a copy.
2D? Oh,
Yes.
yes. I wrote it here.
My name is Carol Charco. I live on Shady Lane. I will make a few very brief comments. My understanding is that the residents, who happen to be taxpayers, and their interests should always come first. I don't see that happening at all. I request that you deny the permit, and I don't understand why you've kept letting the JCC extend and extend and extend. My understanding the last time we were here was that at this meeting, they were supposed to come up with a comprehensive plan, which they did not. Just parenthetically, on that map, there are at least 2 houses that are left off. My house, which is closer to the pool, and the Hoffers' house, which is very close to the pool. So, I mean, granted, we live on Shady Lane, and there's a reason it's called that. So I would question the distance that some people, 10 Shady Lane, and the Hoffers, I'm not sure what the address is, but they are 16? Okay. As far as I can tell, there is zero benefit for us, and I thought our interests need to come first. Our real estate values apparently will be lowered, and the quality of our lives for sure are impacted. There are no benefits, but there are negatives. I dare say, and this is my last point, I dare say that the people sitting behind me who represent the JCC would not want this in their neighborhood. I wouldn't ask them because I'm not sure that they would tell the truth about it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Wortel has given us a copy of the comments that Dr. Wortel presented, so I'm assigning that to be Exhibit 2E, just so we know.
Hi, my name is Hetty Kober. I've never spoken in front of you, so hopefully you'll grace me a few minutes. I'm the resident of 147 Pease Road, which is on the corner of Shady Lane. We're actually one of the farthest properties, I guess, of the people who are here, and that is because when I sit outside in my house, I can still hear it. I would not be here if it weren't true, although I do like supporting all of my neighbors who live closer. I have to say that there's a personal interest, which is in my backyard. I can hear noises from the pool, from the field, probably not from the picnic tables, but I can't, in the middle of the day, it's hard to tell. The things that I wanted to say specifically, the JCC's council today spoke about reasonable extension, and the fact that I think that we have also been trying to be reasonable, right? So there's been some claim that we had never petitioned for a cease and desist for the operation of the JCC. I think that amongst us, we've complained, but we never brought it up to this level because we were trying to be reasonable. We were trying to accept that there's this JCC in our neighborhood, and I have to say that I do have ties to the JCC, and I was born and raised in Israel, but I still don't think that they're complying with their agreements with the neighborhood, which obviously happened way before I moved there. I moved there 5 years ago, so the 1995 agreements were not signed by me. But when I moved in, this is what I got from the person who sold the house, is that they were only supposed to do it on work hours, which I wasn't concerned with because I work at Yale and I'm there all the time during the day, during the week, and that there were going to be only set hours of operation. What I found a year almost after we moved in is that in the summer, in the middle of the day, I can't be in my house, and that on the weekend sometimes I can't be outside in my house because there's so much noise. Related to that is specifically the point about amplified versus unamplified human voice. Just 2 weeks ago on Sunday, there was amplified music, there was amplified people speaking. Most of the afternoon and into the early evening, we can list the songs that they were playing because outside in our house you could hear it very, very well. And walking down Shady Lane, which my husband and I did just to see what it's like, it just gets really, really so much louder even closer. So we're not even the people who are hurt by this the most. And I would dare say that even if I'm okay with occasionally hearing children splashing in a pool, I think that them screaming at each other and the sound of what sounded like trucks and a train and music, a lot of music for probably 3 hours straight is certainly not what we were going for. And I will say related to that if you're going to reduce 30% of the noise during the week with these kinds of measures, it still means that you're adding 70% more, what would normally be 70% of the noise onto our weekend days by allowing extended pool hours. And I think that that would hurt all of us. It really, really would. I don't know if it's possible for you to imagine what it's like to not be able to go out of your house and sit on your porch or in your backyard on a weekend when it's your only time to rest and have someone blasting noise, amplified and non-amplified. I'm going to end. I'm just going to say that this is an emotional time for all of us, right? We're really scared. It's not because we're trying to be irritating, and it's not because we're trying to be belligerent, but we have been feeling from the JCC's perspective that not only have they not respected the agreements that they made with the neighborhood, 30 years ago, but that they are consistently treating this proceeding with a lack of respect, not only of us, but also of you, because your time is being spent listening to us complaining about the fact that they again show up with what is a wanting proposal or a wanting plan. And so I hope that you remember that we need your help, and our interests are in your hands, and I hope that you will please take care of them.
The children.
Hi, I'm Joanne Curd of 127 Pease Road, and I'm against this application. And I just want to say, our homes were there long before the JCC moved up from New Haven. Our homes are our sanctuaries and our largest assets. We all pay property taxes, and I'm assuming that since they are a tax-exempt organization, that they do not. When the wind is right, we can hear the train whistles from the valley, the gunfire from Yansonia Gun Club. There is nothing that they can do to block out the noise coming into our yards. I'm sure none of you would like to have a constant pool party behind your house with 200 people all day, every day, for months. We are entitled to some peace and quiet. That is why people move to Woodbridge. This should not be allowed. That's all.
Hi, my name's Yang. I'm living in 139 Peace Road. So basically, I'm one of the two families closest to the JCC border. My wife and I here tonight, and we are strongly oppose the application by JCC for extending their business hours into the weekends. So many thoughts floating right now. I don't know how to start, but probably I will repeat one of the points my neighbor and also team mentioned. Is I remember in one of the previous hearings about this application, the chairman mentioned the board usually review the applications, especially the repeat applications, for instance, like JCC. For this board, you look at the track record of the applicant. So let's take a look of the current applicant track record. You're holding a blueprint that was from 1994, correct? There are berms, there are trees. 98, okay. And you visited the site during early spring. For the first hand, you didn't see those beautiful trees there. So what that mean, or what that is saying for the track record of JCC for the past almost 20 years? Do we have to say anything about their track record? So just based that track record, I think the board should just reject by your own standard of this application. Right there. It's your own standard. You mentioned that. Right. Okay. The other thing, could I borrow one of the pictures? So you have the pictures, and you see where the pool, the barbecue area is. Can you see the buffer zone of the trees between that activity of the house and the neighbor borderline? I think it's between 100 to 200 feet. It's all full of trees, natural trees, with foliage or whatever the sound barrier during the summer. So that huge barrier of sound it still couldn't block whatever the noise from the activity, from the current activity from JCC. No, the neighbor cannot tolerate. So I may miss a lot of information tonight about the sound expert proposals to mitigate the sound problem we would have. It's to grow the fence for another 2 feet and to move the tables even closer to the fence. So for that proposal, how do you think it could have a significant impact on the noise level compared to this 100 to 200 buffer zones already there? It's so insignificant. So when the JCC said that they would like to walk extra miles to help the neighbors, but I just don't see it. From track record, almost back to 20 years ago, I don't see it. From this application, I think this is the third one or fourth one. The chairman mentioned so many times, I don't know how many times, about the trees, about the barriers, about the sound barriers. And this is what we see tonight for the proposal. I don't see the actual map at all. That's it. So I strongly suggest the board to consider our neighbor concerns. This is our home. I don't want to have huge amount of noise in my home, even during the weekends. Yeah. And by the way, last weekend, I don't know what's going on in the GC. There was noise. No, the weekend before last weekend, the whole day. Is there a procedure that the activity should be reported or requested from town, or they can do whatever they want even during the weekends? It's my question.
I don't know the exact rules, but I know that they're allowed to have functions there on weekends.
That was allowed, very close. Yeah, amplifier. I don't know what kind of activity. I thought of maybe a scheduled or approved activity. And last weekend there's also minor noises. I don't know if that was the GCC or just the kids, wandering on their property. So, thank you.
Hi, my name's Lori Hoffer, and I reside at 16 Shady Lane. And I just have one comment. I think one of the biggest questions we've heard over the past meetings is amplified noise. And as it relates to the noise in the pool area of the camp right now, it's not a matter of just it being kids playing and splashing and what happens in a pool. But there's amplification there, and it has been ongoing. And I have yet to hear, maybe I missed it, but I have yet to hear an acknowledgement from any JCC representative acknowledging that they are in fact using amplification sound on the site, and they're not supposed to be. Now, I look back in the minutes from the March and April minutes, and a couple of the JCC representatives had stated that there will be no amplification connected to the modified use. Okay, but what about the camp? What about the camp that starts up in 3 weeks? That's the noise. I understand that, but I understand that, but that amplification seems to be I mean, we're talking about something that happened at the JCC two weekends ago. I was out of town, I didn't hear it. But my point is, that's like, you know, a big part of the noise that comes out of there, whether it's happening now and, you know, okay, well, it's not going to be used for the modified use, 10 to 7 on Saturday and Sunday, and whatever it is, 4:30 to 7 in the evening. So what does that mean? The speakers that are there can be used during the camp, and then they're going to be covered up and not used during the extended use? That's a big issue. That's all.
You know, I'll take most responsibility for the fact that this is continuing to be continued, because I do spend my whole life finding compromises between two sides. That's what I do, and I think that's what all of us do. And I think the idea is that the JCC is a very positive part of Woodbridge, just like obviously the whole neighborhood is a positive part of Woodbridge. And so I do find it frustrating, and I said it from the very first meeting, that it doesn't seem like everybody communicates. And it's true that maybe the JCC hasn't stuck to everything 100%. I'm actually finding out from these meetings that I don't think everybody at the JCC really understood that some of these things were happening. And I think the neighbors have to understand that they live there, and this is going to be here. The soccer field is there. Kids make noise. This is a rural area. Kids are outside playing. People cut their lawns. And so we are looking for a compromise, which I think that everybody's making a good effort. And I think that the neighbors should look at these continued meetings, which we would be more than happy not to be coming to, is that the JCC is spending time trying to figure out how to fix the situation. And I don't know who exactly said whatever. Obviously, we are going to make sure that this is in full operation as far as if we are agreeing and we're granting the application, it would be one of the requirements to make sure that this sound blocking works. If it doesn't work, then we're not going to give them an approval. So I don't want you to, I mean, it's funny, the JCC thinks we are on the side of the neighbors think we're on the side of the JCC. That tells me that we're doing a great job, by the way. But again, I think everybody still lives in this town, and everybody's neighbors, and I don't think anybody can shut everybody out. So again, we're just so happy to keep coming here, but I think we are actually moving forward. And if it means it doesn't get approved, or it does, so be it. But we won't be able to walk, and we would do the same thing for anybody in here that comes in here for an application for anything. We try to make suggestions on how to come to a compromise that everybody is happy with, or mostly happy with. So.
Because I have a question for the board, not for them. The question I have is, if we cannot extend beyond June 28th, no matter what, the question is it at all possible to come to a decision by that date, allowing the residents the opportunity, their acoustical engineer, the opportunity to review anything that's given and come back and still have the time to be able to make a decision? Or do we just say, fine, start the whole process over again and start the timeline again? Because we are up against, we have that other little special meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. People are not going to want to come in 2 days that week. That other special meeting is going to be,
It's going to be long.
it's going to be long, and it's going to be loud, and it's going to be...
Well,
So-
Jeff, don't you think the only choices that are right now is you can deny it
Without prejudice.
without prejudice or with prejudice? There's two options.
Yeah.
Or you can ask if the applicant might go and voluntarily withdraw so that they can give us a fuller plan that we can then discuss at our next option. This way, everything's on the table. It allows them to make that available, as was requested by council, sufficiently in advance of whenever that next meeting would be. I mean, that just may presume that they're not going to open this summer. I mean, I
Well,
think that may be, an ultimate issue. So the other option we have is to approve an application with whatever modifications there are, which I would get the sense of this commission at this point not being there, based upon everything that's happened tonight. I would think that that's probably a fair.
Okay, you probably shouldn't go that far. Everything was good until you decided to do that, but
Well, I would
there's a
think-
third option. And
I gave you 4 already. What's the
okay, the
third?
fifth one, I don't know what your
Fifth
fourth
one,
one was,
okay.
but today's the 6th.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can, 2 weeks before, we have a special meeting on the 27th, which is the day before the 28th. And if the neighbors feel like they need 2 weeks, that means the JCC would have to come back with a full plan, et cetera, that the neighbors would need to look at in a week. Which isn't out of the question, since a lot of the work's already been done. And that means the neighbors would have 2 weeks to come back and review.
Mark says that could be done.
And that means that on the 27th, we can have almost the same discussion we just had now. We can our choice on the 27th will either deny it with prejudice or not, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I understand. The
Need to
point is,
make
we
a
can
dec-
hear it on the 27th.
Right.
You do not need to make a decision by the
You just have to
100th.
close the
I just have to close my hearing.
You just have to close the hearing.
Okay, fine.
Which gives we
Right.
have to give the residents an opportunity to speak.
Correct.
Right.
So maybe you should ask both council whether or not they think that that's a fair resolution.
That's my question.
On behalf of JCC, we can go.
All right.
Mr. Lee, is that good on behalf of the residents?
So let's just clarify, because I think you added an extra week in there somewhere.
I hope not.
So 2
But-
weeks from tonight is the 20th. Is that when you
No.
wish?
No, today's the
27th.
6th.
I didn't finish. 2 weeks from tonight is the 20th, by which date you would want the report in hand.
No.
No, you want it next week?
1 week, yeah, 1 week.
Okay. So you want it by next Monday, the 13th.
And if they can get it by the 13th, then it's 2 weeks till the 27th.
And then it's 2 weeks to the 27th.
And they asked for 2 weeks.
Let them talk. Encourage them.
Does that work? Yeah. Okay. So you're going to have, and I get a copy of this report this time too? That would be very helpful to have it in my file at the same time, so I can get it to the members. So by the 20th, we're going to have, or by the 13th, we're going to have
Yes.
a report, and then you're going to have a hearing continuation on the 27th in the senior CAF of the center building for Meeting House Lane.
Could the reviewing acoustician also deliver to Christine a copy of their review of that before the meeting, so the commission can have a chance to look at it?
Yeah, so, I mean, listen, the more information,
Before the meeting.
the more information that the commission has seen by the meeting, the better.
I'm sorry.
You can't hear?
The more information the commission has in hand, because they are the ones making the decision before the meeting, would be helpful. So anything that can get sent to me electronically so that I can speed it their way is deeply appreciated. And if you don't have my email, I will gladly give it to you.
Did you say the meeting is going to be in a different building next time?
Yes, it will be in the center building
Oh, yes.
in the calf downstairs, the senior calf.
Okay, what's the date?
27th.
June 27th, 7:30.
And there will be 2 hearings that night, continuing. This one and the one on the proposed change to the zoning regulation.
I think this
I will
one,
not be here.
I'm sorry. Could you schedule this one maybe first, so it definitely.
Well, we'll think about that. Mr. Miller?
So could I ask a question? At the next meeting.
You just have to sign in, I'm sorry.
You can ask a question.
You're speaking at a hearing, yes?
There are other people here that are really more in charge than I am. And that's one of the things they asked.
So my question is, at the next get-together, doesn't it make sense to just have the professionals present their findings and their case and close it?
Well, we can decide that then. Did you sign in?
There's no pen.
I didn't think so. Sure you did. Oh, you signed it. We made it. All right, great. We're all set. It's being continued to the 27th. They're going to get, I think you were here. Look at that. The report's going to be here on the 13th. So all the neighbors
heard the report.
and us and
So the 27th,
who's bringing the coffee? Yeah, you have to understand.
no, it's not the coffee, he's bringing the sleeping bags. It's not gonna be coffee.
We can have the
Well,
scouts.
my understanding is that the neighbors have been in deep discussion with the attorney. They've been having their meetings down the
Fine, maybe
So there may be, I'm not going to say there's going to be consensus, but there's a good possibility
it's
that
not
people
gonna
have
be
gotten
done by
out of the
us?
system. Well, maybe you'll have.
Look,
I don't know.
I hope they do. I hope
I
they
hope so too.
Are we making order?
Which group?
There's a bunch of
Okay, just shh. Can I, we still have the rest of our meeting.
So if you can carry conversations outside, it would be appreciated.
Right, I guess. All right. So everybody knows the 27th is our meeting with Woodbridge. That's been continued from the Woodbridge Builders Association. Leaving town. We've engaged the service as well. Actually, the applicant's paying engaged the services of finding out more information about the parking. Because one of the things in the guy's report was that there's an increase of traffic going in and out of that property, even if he cuts it back to 1.5 cars per unit instead of 2. And so we've asked the guy to give us an analysis of 1.5 cars to see if it coincides with what they're saying, but also if it's 2 cars, because that's actually what's been approved down there for 2 cars per unit. So, and I'm thinking that they fixed it to 1.5 cars because 2 cars was showing a real lot of traffic increase. So as it is, it increased.
When does that
More than
start?
50%.
When does that need to be over? Chris?
That hearing started on May 9th.
So we have time with respect to
You
that.
have 35 days, and
And then
they
they
can
can
give you
give-
65 days.
Yeah, I'm just saying
So
they
if
can
you
give us
need
some
to
more time if
continue
we
that,
need it based upon what's happening. I'm just anticipating something that might happen. That's all.
Okay. I don't think we have any correspondence. Report of any activities from Scrog? I keep missing.
I'm unaware.
Yeah, me too. Okay. We have approval of some minutes.
No, I didn't send them.
Oh, there you go.
I was looking for
Takes
it.
care of
When did I
that.
get to send
I
them?
thought actually you emailed, you did email, well, never mind.
Maybe
I guess
you
not. The other thing is I did talk to Leslie, and hopefully this week the first
Questionnaire.
survey is going up.
On the first questionnaire,
Yeah, it's a lot of photographs. Do you like this or do you like that?
I hope there's a little publicity given about it because nobody knows about it.
Well, she just let it loose, and so Betsy Yagler has it, and so they haven't put it up yet.
Okay.
But
Is she, as a part-time planner, going to be of assistance with, for instance, this pending application, the hearing on the 27th? Are you planning on plugging her in?
that's not part of her.
Her agenda?
No, not part of her scope.
Understood. Just wondering if, that scope of activities might have been expanded. That's all.
It's not an application,
I know.
and although we had to sit here and listen to two people tell us we don't know what we're doing, there's no application. It's an amendment.
Yes, it's a
That's all it is.
It's a zoning.
So the idea that we should be going through 3 years of analysis as though it were an application is ridiculous. So it's an amendment. We either agree with it or we don't agree with it.
I always think that sometimes some outside assistance from the person who's doing this as a planner for a living.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I'm not
That's
disagreeing
all
with
it-
that.
all
I
it
know
is
I'm
to
not
bring it up.
disagreeing with that, but I'm just.
Yeah, we're not at the
You
level.
again, we need to. You got a lot of people up there talking about everything. Kind of like what happens here a little bit.
But
So.
The theoretical absent the site plan, when you're talking about a zoning amendment, is so ephemeral at times, and I understand all of that, that sometimes if you take a step back and you have a philosophic discussion with the input of a planner, it's actually very useful. That's all. That's my point.
So the philosophical you're talking about here would be age-restricted versus non-age.
Well, there's a few issues. One is reduction of size of units, maybe
The actual
a number
zoning
of-
change that they are
that
proposing.
you would need in order
Yes.
to incorporate how they're wanting to do
Yeah.
it. But yeah, the overall perspective is, do you, eliminate the age 55 and over
And do you
requirement?
go
Yes.
for rentals as well as?
Excuse me, you're having a discussion outside of a hearing.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well, we'll stop now because we were looking for an adjournment.
I moved to
I was
adjourn.
waiting for. Never mind.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.